And then,
There we go. Okay. Welcome, everyone. So happy to have you join us this morning. We have a bunch of information to share with you about camp. We're going to, of course, introduce ourselves, and we want to answer your questions. That's really the goal of this. And so as we go through the presentation, if you have questions, feel free to say them out loud. Feel free to type them in the chat, and we'll answer them as we can. Or we'll also open up time at the end for questions. But this is time for you to get all the information you need to be prepared for the summer for yourself and your campers. And we're just really happy that you could join us this morning. As we go, if you just make sure that unless you're talking to ask a question, you could mute yourself. That would be great. So that way everyone can hear and get the information that they need. And I think anything else to add there before we get started, Carter?
no, I think that's it.
Okay, great. I just let a couple more people in, so welcome if you're just joining us here, but we are going to get started. Hi, everyone. My name is Sam Lucheck. I am the camp director at Manitouche. I actually just started in December, so I'm fresh to Manitouche. I'm really excited to be here for this summer and this programming season, but I am not new to the camping world. I've been a camper myself and absolutely loved every part of it. I've gone on wilderness trips. I've taken my family out camping, and then I've also been a seasonal camp staff member for over 6 years in different roles: counselor, lifeguard, leadership roles. And then most recently, I've spent the last 10 years as a camp director at 2 different camps, one in Indiana, one in Wisconsin, southern Wisconsin, and 2 of those years also as a property manager. So absolutely love everything about camping in the outdoors, and I'm really excited to be a part of the Manitouche experience this summer with all of you.
Cool. Thanks, Sam. Well, hello, everyone. My name is Carter. I'm the summer camp director here at Manitouche. So a little bit about me is that I started at Manitouche back in 2001 as a camper. It's actually that top left picture. That's my first year at camp. I loved horses, so I always went out there. And so I spent 5 summers in the summer camp program. And then after I kind of got past the summer camp program, I moved into our outpost program, which is the extended wilderness travel. I did 1 year of that. I did a Mariner, which is a 28-day kayaking trip in northern Lake Superior. Then I did 1 year as what we call our staff apprentice program, which is basically, if you've ever heard of like a counselor and training program, that's kind of what we did here. After that, I started working, and I did 9 summers as a seasonal staff member. I worked in all 5, I would say, areas. So summer camp, outpost, leadership, property, and kitchen. And in those 9 different summers, I held 11 different positions here. And then this is now my 2nd year as the summer camp director. And so I'm very, very excited, and I'm happy to see you all here. And I'm recognizing some names and faces. So thank you all for joining. And yeah, I'm really excited for this webinar.
Great. Okay, so we want to get started at the kind of beginning per se. One of the great things about Manitouche is that, unlike other places where their mission and vision is just concocted and kind of sits on a piece of paper or on a wall somewhere, Manitouche really integrates the mission and vision into everything that is done at camp and all the programming. So it's really a point of pride, and we want to make sure that everyone knows it so we can use it to guide our experience. And so I know you all can look at the screen and read, but I'm just going to read a little bit out loud. So for our mission at Manitouche, to enrich the character and leadership development of each person who has a Manitouche experience by challenging them to grow in wisdom, in stature, in favor with God, and in favor with one another. And so that and the vision help guide how we develop our programs, how we want to build as a camp community, and really engage each other and engage the communities around us. And then the other piece that is really important to us here at Manitouche, and hopefully to all of our members as well, is our commitment statement. And this is something that really support our community with respect and inclusion, and really providing a safe place for everyone that wants to and can have a Manitouche experience with us. And so our commitment statement is: Camp Manitouche YMCA strives to create an inclusive environment by upholding human dignity, value, and diversity, and acknowledging unique experiences. So we're really excited that you all are going to be joining us this summer on this journey and making these things come to life. And now some general logistics. As many of you know, we're located in Boulder Junction, Wisconsin. And so that is a northern part of Wisconsin, and you can see it on our map there with the star. And we are we're a short distance from many cities. So many of you are coming from southern Wisconsin area, maybe Chicago area. You can see the timeframes located on the side of this PowerPoint. And then also on this map, you'll see a couple locations pointed out. So we indicate the Porcupine Mountains, where some of our trips go on their summer camp trips for part of the program, as well as the Ice Age Trail. So those are two locations outside of the actual area right here around Boulder Junction where trips go and explore the lakes in the area. The property of camp is about 300 plus acres, and we do have some state lands that border us, and so just absolutely endless amounts of exploring to be done, both on the land and in the water. So that's a little bit more about our location.
Thanks again. There have been more people that have been joining, so Sam and I are going to continue to go through these things. If you do have questions in the moment, you can always feel free to use the chat or unmute yourself to ask these questions. So a little bit further kind of general information is a lot of what we're going over today is going to be in our parent information packets. So, but what we're going to do is we're going to kind of zoom out a little bit, and we're going to talk about some of those key points that we feel that you all should know, as well as there are some just updates from previous summers. So here are some of the summer camp basics. How our summer camp is broken down in terms of where people go and the different ages that we have. We split our campers up into different sections. So there's 4 sections, as we call them, of camp. We have near south, far south, near north, and far north. Now, near south is going to be our youngest age groups, which are going to be 5th through 6th grade, generally. Far south is going to be generally 6th through 7th grade. Near north is going to be generally 8th through 9th grade. And then finally, far north is generally 9th through 10th grade. As you can see on the little bottom with the asterisk, these age breakdowns and cabins are really dependent on the overall age of camp. So it is not a cut and dry thing that an 8th grader is going to be in near north. They could be in far south. It just really depends on that overall age group. So if all of camp is generally a little bit older, then we're obviously going to take all of those ages and split them up evenly in those 4 age groups, if that makes sense. If you have more specific questions, you can always feel free to reach out to us later about, hey, where is my camper going to be? But this is a really general guideline, as well as you can see all of the cabin names that are generally associated with those sections. All right. We'll go to the next slide. So a little bit about our cabins. So we have 24 camper cabins here at Manitouwish. And each of these cabins have bunk rooms, common rooms, and all of them actually have some sort of wood burning appliance, whether that is a stone fireplace, which you can see in the upper right corner, or sometimes they have the wood fire stoves, which are kind of those internal boxes with the little door. So as you can see on the top left picture, that's a kind of a zoomed slightly in version of our bunk room. So there's usually 6 bunks. And then there are also, as you can see on either side of that picture, there are kind of little mobile closets, as we call them, where campers can hang their clothes. There's some shelves in there. And where they can keep their things. Otherwise, if there's extra stuff, you can see there's spaces under the bunks where their luggage and things can go. On the top right picture, you're going to see an example of a common room. That's a big common space where there's tables and chairs and things like that where people can hang out. And these common rooms and bunk rooms are often separated by like a little kind of open doorway. But some of our old cabins are actually one giant room where there's no kind of separation between that bunk and common room. And then there's also some cabins that you're going to see on the bottom left corner. Those are actually 2 cabins that are combined by one common room. So 2 cabins, as in that one down there is Tall Pines and Eagle Ridge. Those share a common space. But normally most of our cabins are single cabins with just a common room. And then as you can see on the bottom right, those are just some campers sitting around the common room table playing some cards. So that's a little bit about our cabins, which leads us into our wash houses. So all of our summer camp cabins actually don't have any running water in them. So what we have are what's called wash houses. Now, There is a wash house in each section. So there's 4 wash houses where there's bathrooms, showers, sinks. Some of them actually even have saunas and all the amenities that you're going to need to take care of your hygiene and all of those different things. So that's a little bit about our wash houses. And normally, if you look at our map on our website, or you saw it at the map at the beginning, the wash houses are pretty close inside those sections. So they're usually no more than like 80 yards from a wash house from their cabin. So that's a little bit about the wash houses. So a little bit about opening and closing days. So if you all have been to Manishbush before, our opening days are going to look different than they have in 2021 and 2022. We're going back to our old opening day system before 2020, which what that means is that opening days, you're going to be able to come in, park your car, and you're going to be able to walk your camper around yourself to the check-in, to the health center, and then bringing your camper to your cabin. Whereas the last 2 years, we've had a drop-off system due to our COVID risk mitigation policies. So that's going to be slightly different than it was last year. And as a reminder, as you can see, the opening days for boys camp is June 18th from 1 to 4:30 p.m. and girls camp is July 23rd, 1 to 4:30 p.m. You're more than welcome to show up prior to that 1 o'clock, but we do have kind of a barricade halfway down the road, and there's usually a big long line of people that are waiting to come in. And then right at 1 o'clock, we'll open the barricade. We'll call over the radio that it's opening day, and everyone will come on in. And if you're not dropping your camper off in person, they will be taking the bus. And the buses usually arrive at camp anywhere between 4 and 4:30. And towards the end of the presentation, we'll talk about what transportation looks like. And then for closing days, it looks a lot like opening day, as in you're more than welcome to come in, park your car, walk around. This one is usually a little bit more interactive, as in we encourage our campers to kind of bring their parents and their guardians all around camp to show them the different program areas and things like that. And that closing day time frame is from 8 to 11 a.m. on those respective days. And then on closing day, we will also have the trading post open. So if you want to buy some last minute things before you all go home, it will be open, and you're more than welcome to take some items home with you. We have some really cool new stuff this year, because actually this year is our 105th anniversary of camp. So we got some new logos and some new things happening. So I'm very excited. All right. So here's a little bit about our daily schedule. I know there's a lot of words and a lot of things on here, so I'm just going to verbally go over some of those things. So when you think about our daily schedule, this is mainly what I'm talking about is our Monday through Saturday schedule, because our Sunday looks a little bit different. But Monday through Saturday, they all look pretty much the same in terms of the breakdown. So we always have 7:30 breakfast. Then after breakfast, we have a short cleaning. And then our campers are going to go to what's called coaching periods. So these are 2 1-hour blocks where our campers have the opportunity to choose whichever program they want to go to. So if that means they want to go to tennis first, and then they want to go to the boathouse and go paddleboarding second, that is the opportunity that they have. But once they go to the one, they got to stay there for that hour. And then after those coaching periods, we have free time or free swim, as in our campers can go down to the pier and go swimming. They can go back to their cabins and maybe wash up, because maybe they're out of horses all day and they're all dusty, and get ready for lunch. After lunch, we have rest hour, which is also usually when we hand out mail, which I'll talk about communication in a little bit. And then in the afternoon, we have what's called cabin activities. So how those differ from coaching periods is that cabin activities, each cabin, they are assigned a different area. So if they're in Tall Pines cabin, maybe they're assigned to go to tennis first and then the boathouse second to go paddleboarding. And that's a really great opportunity to have some kind of cabin bonding and go with your whole cabin to different activities and participate in those. So then we have another free time / free swim. And then we have dinner. And then after dinner, we have what's called detail. So detail is an opportunity for where all of our campers and staff are designated or assigned a different area of camp to go clean. And that is a really great opportunity to learn leave no trace policies or kind of guidelines. It's an opportunity to practice what we call environmental stewardship. It's also an opportunity to help our property and our maintenance team out, because we actually only have 2 housekeepers for all of camp. And we've got like 60 buildings. So they can't do all that themselves every day. So this is an opportunity for us to help give back to them. And then after detail, we have what's called section games, which are basically really large group games, things like dodgeball or capture the flag, or canoe sing, or if you've ever heard the term Wells Fargo. These are the times when they're going to do those all camp games. Most often during the session, they're split by the ends of camp. So North End would do their section game together, and then the South End would do their section game together. But some days when a lot of people are on trail, we combine everything and we have an all camp game where everybody participates together. So, and then after section games is the time when everyone's going to kind of get ready for bed, take care of hygiene things, brushing teeth, taking showers, and then taps or lights out or bedtime, 9:30 for the South End and 10 o'clock for the North End. So that's a little bit about our daily schedule, Monday through Saturday.
Great. So now I'm talking about Sundays, because that was the, like Carter said, Monday through Saturday schedule. Our Sundays look a little different. You get to enjoy a late breakfast, so sleeping in just a little bit after a long, busy week. This is also a modified day just because it also includes our opening days, and so that's already a Sunday in the schedule. There also on Sundays is our chapel, and so everybody does attend chapel, and this is a time when people are able to come together. It will be one of our staff, maybe Carter or myself, kind of leading the presentation and the time for chapel, and just giving people an opportunity, a space to reflect on their experience, to have a little spiritual moment, or be able to reflect however they prefer for the week. And so we might prompt people with some thoughts or some wording, and then everyone will join in and just kind of be able to spend that time together at the chapel. Then we have all camp games as well, so special extra all camp games. And then there is our LITE night activity, so learn it this evening, which I'll again turn it to Carter to elaborate on a little bit.
Yeah, so Light Night is an opportunity where all of our activities staff that are normally doing the things like horses and crafts and riflery and archery, this is a time where they get to make up whatever activity that they want to do and they want to teach to everyone. So I've seen staff members teach Quidditch or watercolor down on the pier, or slacklining, or different things that you normally wouldn't be doing during that Monday through Saturday schedule. And then the campers are going to get an opportunity to rotate around and kind of dabble in those different activities. And so we do that every Sunday evening.
Right. And then the other thing that's unique about Sundays is that one time during each session, so for boys camp and girls camp, we have a visitors day opportunity. So it's a time when families can come to camp and kind of hang out, catch up with their camper, be able to take a little kind of tour around, make sure that things, I guess, be able to share things is where I'm going with that. And they do happen on the last Sunday of the session. So for boys camp, it's July 2nd. For girls camp, it's August 6th. And this is between 9 and 11 a.m. So it's a very short time frame in the morning. And we understand that it's a great time to be able to come and see your camper and spend time with them and catch up. But it is something that we understand if you're not able to attend. So there's many families and campers that choose not to participate in Visitors Day. And that is just fine too, whatever is best for you all and your schedules and your travel arrangements. If you do come to camp, we have probably about 20 or so of our camper families that do end up participating. So it is a pretty small number. And if you choose not to come to camp, your camper will still be very busy with activities during this time and have a lot going on. So we'll keep them busy if you don't end up visiting. And the other thing to note about this is that we do have trail experiences that happen throughout the session. And so it could be the timing to work out where your camper could be on trail during Visitors Day. And so it's really important that you pay attention to those email communications that we send about when your camper's trail time is. And that has a very small chance that it could change because of weather or needs and resources on camp. And so it's always good if you're planning on visiting for Visitors Day, just to send us an email to the office or reach out to us before you come up so that you can confirm your camper will in fact be in camp on that day. Great. And now food. So food is huge at camp, especially when you're staying overnight and you're with us all season. And so we want to make sure that you're well cared for, that you have all the food you need, because we need to make sure that all you as campers and for your campers, they have the energy they need to have a good time and participate in all of our activities. So this year we are partnering with an organization called Summer Camp Cooks. They're our contracted dining services, and they will provide our food service director, who's actually already on site, and a few chefs as well, in order to support and lead the food operation. They'll be making all the food, focusing on making food from scratch and homemade meals, and really making sure that we have well-balanced meals and that everyone gets as much as they need, so that no one goes hungry. We also will have a team of kitchen stewards and a baker and some NASH captains that will support our kitchen operations, both in the kitchen and in the dining hall. You can see on the picture and on this page, this is the Nash Lodge Dining Hall. And so this one is where everybody will come together. Summer camp, our outpost programs, our leadership programs. It can see about 450 with our commercial dining out of this building. And so additionally, we of course provide 3 meals a day and some snacks, so lots of fresh fruit. We want to make sure that items are nutritious at all meals and that everyone has as much as they need. And we have family style dining. So what happens is everything gets plated up and brought out to the table by our waiters and waitresses. And so those are the campers actually that get assigned to that detail for the day. And then the food gets brought to the table so everyone can eat from there. And we do have a special tradition at Manitouwish where we do dessert at lunchtime. So you can look forward to that as well. When it comes to food, one of the big things is that we understand that many campers and our staff have special diets and allergies, and we want to accommodate that and make sure that we're providing exactly what each person needs. It's really important to us to make sure that this is a safe experience and that everyone gets a similar substitute. So we're working really closely with Summer Camp Cooks to make sure that if we have a certain item for a meal, that we have an appropriate substitute, that everyone gets the full balance and protein that they need. And we do have a nut-free kitchen. And so this is something that if you do have a nut allergy or peanut allergy, it's something that you don't even have to worry about in our NASH dining services. The only place on camp that we do ever have nuts is out of our tripping program. So out of the MLC where the trips get food packaged, we do have nuts, but they're separate from all the food and they only go out on trips without anybody with any kind of nut allergies. We do accommodate all sorts of special diets, vegetarian, vegan, special allergies like gluten-free or celiacs and egg allergies. You know, the list goes on and on. If you have specific questions about allergies, please feel free to reach out to me. These are handled separately to make sure that they're a special area of the kitchen, separate equipment, separate dishes. They're going to be served right from the kitchen window, so they won't be in those family style dishes, except possibly like vegetarian, where it could be easier and safer to have out on the table. So that's a little bit about food services, and you're welcome to ask questions specifically about this one too.
Speaking of trail, sorry, I was on mute. So one of the things that's really cool about Manitouwish, which kind of sets us aside from a lot of other camps out there, is that we not only have the in-camp experience where we're going to do those very traditional summer camp activities like horses and light crafts and sailing and boats and music and all those things, but your camper will go on some sort of multi-day wilderness experience while they're here. And so that's the really cool part about it. So sometime during their 3-week session, their cabin is going to be scheduled to go out on that trip. So these trips range, depending on their age, from 3 to 8 days long. So if you're in near south, you're going to go out for 3 days, 2 nights. If you're in far south, you're going to go out for 4 days, 3 nights. If you're in near north, you're going to go out for 6 days, 5 nights. And if you're in far north, you're going to go out for 8 days, 7 nights. If you've been here before and you're like, oh, some of those numbers are different, hold your questions because I will talk about some of the differences of trail on the next slide. So trail is a really, really great way to be able to not only learn about yourself, but learn about how to interact in the wilderness with yourself and with others and interact with nature itself. It's a really great opportunity to learn a lot of transferable skills like respect and like communication and like responsibility and all these different things because of the fact that you're out there. You're not going to have running water. You're not going to have all these different amenities that you're used to back in camp or back at home. So it's a really, really kind of powerful experience. And that's one of the biggest reasons why we do this, is we know that nature and these wilderness trips are probably some of the most impactful experiences that we offer here at camp. So if you have any questions about trail, you can always feel free to reach out to us. But yeah, that's a little bit about trail. So a little bit about the trail updates. So last year, our near north and our far north trips used to be 1 day less. So near north was 5 days, 4 nights, and far north was 7 days, 6 nights. We decided to kind of up those by 1 day. So those are 2 changes. And then the other really big change that I'm very excited about is that we are no longer going to be going to the Apostle Islands for our sea kayaking trips. We're now going to be going to Voyageurs National Park. A couple reasons for that is that it's a really cool opportunity to go somewhere that we've never been before. And so we really like to kind of explore, and this is a great opportunity for us to go there. Another reason is that currently our Voyageur program, which is the first year in the Outpost program, also goes to the Apostle Islands. So we're trying to kind of eliminate some of that overlap if you go from summer camp to that first year of Outpost, especially this year. And the other reason is that if you look on the map, Voyageurs National Park, that lake is a little bit smaller than Lake Superior. So it's a really great kind of introductory lake for folks that have maybe never been kayaking before. It's a good starting point, because if you've ever been at Lake Superior, you know that that's a pretty big lake. And so we want to make sure that we're giving our campers an opportunity to gain skills in kind of a little bit of a smaller controlled environment. So that's a little bit about those updates.
Wonderful. So another big area on camp is our health services area. And we want to make sure that everyone has their health needs covered at all times. We do have 24-hour on-call nurses. Most of the time, our nurses are on site and live right there in our health center, as you can see in the picture. We also have a physician that we work with, and that's on call for us so that we partner with as needed. And in addition, all of our staff are trained in wilderness first aid or wilderness first responder. And so those are the people that might help support little needs around camp, and especially cover health needs on trail. But if our campers or staff need something, we are here to help, in any way, both physical needs as well as supporting mental and emotional needs at camp. So for our health center, just a note about medications. All medications, both prescribed and over the counter, including vitamins, are all checked in at the health center. This way that they are recorded, they're kept locked and safe away from anybody else. And so they are all, for all of our staff and all of our campers, that is what we follow for our practices. And the only thing that's an exception here is our emergency equipment. So emergency inhalers or EpiPens, if that applies to your camper, then that is something that we'll make sure you're comfortable with, and they are to have them carry it on them so that they have it when they need it. In some cases, we have had campers that have their staff carry them, just so that depending on the situation, that could be a better fit. In general, though, we make sure that those medications are given when they're needed, including the over-the-counter ones. So they are typically done at morning, afternoon, and evening. These correspond with our meal times. And that means that at meal times, there's a time when people can go and get the medications that they need. And also a big time for this is bedtime as well. If your camper has a medication that has to be specifically at a certain time every day, it is always nice if you could tailor that to one of the meal times, just for ease for them and not interruption to programming. But if not, we will also work with you on that. And don't feel like you need to send over-the-counter medications either. This is something that we do stock in the health center as needed as well. And when your camper goes on trail, your trail staff are specifically trained and authorized to give the medications as needed on trail. And so they go through a special medication training, and as well as having their certifications that they have. As it notes in the slideshow, we will make sure that your camper takes the medications that they need when they need them, even if that means our health team has to kind of go seek out people if they're having too much fun on camp. And if anything else comes up or is needed, campers should always talk to their staff members, and they can either support them or they'll work with the health center to do that. Other little notes are we do have access to clinic, ER, hospital kind of setups. Our closest one is Howard Young Medical Center in Woodruff, about 20 minutes away. And there's also other facilities and clinics in Minocqua that we utilize as needed. Anytime it comes to your camper's health needs, we will be in communication with you. So depending on what the situation is, we will either call you during, before, or after to make sure that you have the most accurate information and you can help make the best decisions for your camper. And if we're ever considering taking your camper off site to additional services, we will definitely be in communication with you about that as well. The other thing is that on our trips all have ways to communicate back with camp. So either use of satellite phones, cell phones for some of those closer trips, so that if something does happen on trail, they can always call into camp, get advice, and work with our health team and our nurses in order to make the best decision when they're on trail, including if we ever need to modify a trip in order to get campers or staff back early from a trail trip. The other thing I want to mention on this slide is just around COVID. So COVID is still a thing that we need to be aware of, and we are still making sure to manage and practice safe practices around it to make sure we keep our campers and camp community safe. And so what we do ask is that everyone partners with us in this effort. We're really following the CDC guidelines and have been, since the beginning of the pandemic. And it's really important to us that you're monitoring your own health and your camper health. And so that if anyone is feeling unwell or has any kind of symptoms or isn't at the top of their game, that you're communicating with us before you arrive on site. That will be huge this summer so that we can keep our whole community safe. And when you're on site, if campers ever feel unwell or getting some kind of stuffy nose or other symptoms, or even our staff, then they're going to work directly with our health team to be able to assess what might be going on. We do have rapid COVID tests on site, plenty of them. So if anything comes up or if there's any suspicion of COVID, we're able to test for that. And then we'll work with families to make the best plan, but that will ultimately likely result in maybe an early or temporary departure from camp in order to make sure that everyone stays healthy enough to participate in all of our activities. So that's a little bit about health services.
Yeah, and then one last thing with that too, as a reminder, I don't know if Sam said this, but the COVID vaccines are not required, but they are recommended. And so that is a change from the last 2 years. And then additionally, I want to add about kind of medication. So whether your medication is over the counter or prescription, they need to be in their original packaging and properly labeled by a physician. Otherwise, we will not administer them. And then the only other thing about over-the-counter meds is that the only time that we really say, yes, bring those over-the-counter meds is if they are being taken on a regular basis. So if it's like Claritin or Allegra or something like that, where they're taking it every day, but it's not a prescription, then we say bring it. So that's just one little extra piece in addition to what Sam said. So
yeah, thanks, Carter. I slipped through those, and that reminds me too, all of these details, all the medications should be noted on your camp doc information. So hopefully you already filled this out for your camper attending camp, but it should be all detailed and provided in there. This includes going back to our food page, any allergies and special diets. We want to make sure it's very noted, that it's detailed, so we know exactly what your camper needs. Our health team will review those things and may follow up with you for clarification. If you need to ever update that or you forgot to add something, please reach out to us as well if you're not able to do it yourself, so that we can make sure we have the most accurate information for your camper so they can have a successful experience at camp.
We always say, please no Ziploc bags with a piece of tape on it that says, here is what this is and take it this time. So, all right. So staying in touch with your camper, there's 3 general ways that you can get in touch with your camper and some of the ways that your camper can get in touch with you while they're here. So let me preface this by saying that we don't actually allow any electronics here at camp. So cell phones, music players, iPods, iPads, all those things. Actually, iPods aren't even a thing anymore. But any of those things, we actually don't allow our campers to keep. So if they do come with those things, we will make sure that they get put in a safe place, a locked, safe location, and we will hold on to it until the session is over. So what that means is we kind of go a little bit I'll call it archaic, so to speak, in terms of the ways that you can communicate. So snail mail is always a tried and true, as in you can send letters and your campers can send letters back. So what some families will do is they'll just pre-package like letters with stamps already on the envelope and be like, write me letters, please. And otherwise, we also have those things here. They can get stamps, they can get envelopes, they can get pieces of paper to send letters. We also have postcards here that they can also send. Another way that we have is kind of electronic snail mail, or what we call campergrams. So this is an electronic mailing system that it runs through our website. And so campergrams are printed and handed out on a daily basis. So basically all you would need to do is go on our website, and then there's a place that says campergrams. You can go to that, and then it's basically going to ask you to put in the camper name, the cabin, the session, and then you can write your message. And then what will happen is that when they get here, or when we print them out, we will sort them into their cabins, and then during those mail times, we will hand those out. So sometimes if you write that campergram at noon that day, it will get to that camper before the end of the day. I think we print them out around 10 a.m. and then we sort them around noon. So actually, I think it's like, if you get it in by 10 a.m. that day, it's probably going to get to your camper that day. And then lastly, we do allow care packages. However, we do not allow food or drinks in them. There's a couple reasons for that. One, as Sam talked about earlier, is to protect against allergens. So we want to make sure that we're keeping any allergens outside of cabins and outside of common spaces. The other thing is that we are in the Northwoods, and we do live in cabins. And so we want to make sure that we're keeping our critters and our ants and our insects out of those cabins. And so that includes candy, drinks, chips, all of those different things. We ask that you don't send those. If you do send those, we're going to also kind of keep them away for safekeeping, and your camper will get them back at the end of the session. So yes, please do not send food or drinks. It also helps with our food waste and like our single-use packagings and all these things, and your campers will get enough food in our meal services. So that's a little bit about staying in touch with your camper. All right, transportation. So if you are not dropping or picking up your camper, we do offer bus systems to be able to get them to and from camp. Now you're going to see that there's those 5 locations that our buses will go to if you do choose to use that service: Madison, Milwaukee, Green Bay, Oak Brook, and Deerfield. And so what will happen is that during the specified times at the beginning of the session, at the end of the session, you will bring your camper to that location. They will get on the bus and they will come up to camp, and then vice versa. At the end of the session, they'll get on that bus and go back down to one of those locations, and then you can pick them up from there. I think there was a question about electronics. So some families will send their electronics with their camper, especially if they're going on the bus, because we know that Chicago to Boulder Junction is not a short trip. We do offer movies on the buses, which is one thing. So there's that. But again, if you do choose to send it up, we're just going to hold those electronics tight and locked up until the end. We always say if you're going to drop off or pick up your camper on drop off, just take those electronics from them and bring them back home with you. And then if you want to bring them back up on closing day, you're more than welcome to do so. We just want to make sure that you keep all of your electronics in the same condition that you found them, or you had them before you came here. So that's a little bit about transportation. Yes, great question about on the bus. Will the camper need lunch? So we do actually pick up lunch on the way. It's usually Subway. And so I think on that transportation, they will get different sandwiches. And again, if they are vegetarian or things like that, we have that opportunity. So you do not need to pack them a lunch. They will get it on the way up from those bus locations.
And then the other question, Carter, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, for the buses, they are coach buses.
Yes. Yep.
Yep. Perfect.
Yep. They're big big transportation. All right. Cool. Well, that's kind of the end of the presentation. However, this is definitely an opportunity. If you want to start asking questions, we'll basically, as we see them come into the chat, we'll start addressing them. So I guess I'll start it off. For one of the questions is, for the trail experience, what type of backpack does a camper need to carry the gear? So if you are signed up for a backpacking trip, we actually provide those backpacks for you. One of the reasons why is because that's usually a pretty specialized piece of gear that's not often used. So we say, like, if you do have a backpack, great, you're more than welcome to use it, but we recommend anything that is a 75-liter or more, especially for summer camp. However, if it's less than that, we're probably going to say, hey, that's a great backpack, but you're going to need to use a different one because of the fact that we carry a lot of things. So we recommend you just not bring a backpack. So in terms of luggage, we often say not to use kind of like hard-sided trunks or things like that because they are really bulky and they often don't fit underneath the bunk. So usually big duffel bags are really, really great because also if they unpack their things, they can even kind of crumple or kind of fold that up to be able to put away. So we say usually no trunks, but you can definitely use different pieces of luggage. We usually say kind of soft-sided luggage. Oh, here we go. I love the questions. Thank you all so much. So Near North Trail Experience is going to be a 6-day, 5-night. Trail for 6th graders, depending on which section. If you're in Near South, that's going to be a 3-day, 2-night. If you're a 6th grader, that's in Far South, then you're going to go on a 4-day, 3-night.
You can choose to send, you can choose to send some snacks or lunch with your camper. We just ask that you try to stay away from any nuts just for our allergens, and then they just will have to eat them when they're on the bus, or if they're non-perishable, they'll be collected when they arrive just with their electronics.
There was a question about, it says, what about canoe trips? I'm guessing that's about gear or specialized equipment. So what I would say is you refer to our packing list or our what to bring list is what we say. And so that is going to be a really great reference to be able to know what gear to bring. But if you're wondering, like, do I need a life jacket or a paddle or other of those like canoeing specific things? No, we will provide all of those things for your camper. If you do have a life jacket or a PFD, it needs to be certified. And I think I have to look back, but I think it has to be like a level 3 certified life jacket. But we recommend that you do not bring your own life jacket because we do have those things here.
In terms of cell phones, just to be more clear about our electronics and cell phones, if you are driving your camper to camp, that's when Carter mentioned when you get to camp and you're dropping off your camper, you can just collect their cell phone and their electronics there, go home, and then when you come back to camp, you'll have them, if you want, in the car that you could give back to your camper. Now, if they're taking the bus, they're able to have them with them on the bus ride. We'll collect them at camp ourselves and then give them back before they return on the bus. So it's really just who's collecting them. It's either us at camp, or if you want to collect it, you're able to.
Yeah, thank you for the clarification. Okay, so there's a question about swimming and swimming abilities. So there is every camper and actually staff member that comes to Manitowish will go through what's called the swim challenge. And so that is an opportunity for camp and also the individual to kind of assess swimming abilities of the campers and staff, because we want to make sure that everyone is staying as safe as possible. So there are 2 parts to this swim challenge. The first part of the swim challenge is is basically they're going to get in long sleeve shirts, long pants, and closed-toed shoes, so no like flip-flops or sandals or things like that. And what they're going to do is they're going to jump in the water or climb down into the water through the ladder. They're going to swim a lap back and forth, which is a lot shorter than a normal pool. And after that down and back lap, they're going to tread water for 10 minutes, which treading water means to swim in place for 10 minutes. And again, I will talk about kind of different swimming abilities at the end of when I talk about the swim challenge. So that's the first part. The second part is that they're all going to get life jackets on. They're going to get into a canoe. They're going to be pushed off of shore about 50 feet. They're going to purposely tip the canoe. And then when they're floating in the water, they're going to kind of swim or drag the boat back into shore. So those are the 2 parts. So what happens if myself or my camper doesn't pass the swim challenge, that's totally okay. It happens every year. We have staff members that don't pass the swim challenge. It's just, that's totally fine. The only thing that is going to mean is that when they're actually in the swimming area, they just always need to be wearing that life jacket when they're swimming. Otherwise, if they're like boating or paddle boarding or canoeing or anything like that, where there's a watercraft involved, they have to be wearing a life jacket anyway. So that literally the only difference is that they're just going to need to wear a life jacket while swimming. Otherwise, they can still participate in any activity that they want, much like if somebody were to pass the swim challenge. Now, here's the thing. You can also retake that swim challenge at any point. And so that is a really great opportunity. But what if you're also like, hey, I know prior to coming here that I am a non-swimmer. Just let us know so that we don't kind of like, we're not going to force you to be able to do that thing. Sometimes what folks will do is like, hey, I still want to like hang out with everybody. So they'll just put a life jacket on and they'll just kind of go in the water and do the swim challenge with everybody else. And we also, some of our lifeguards will also like kind of teach somewhat basic like swimming lessons too. So if you like want to potentially learn how to swim, you can potentially do that here as well. So I hope that answers some of the questions. And then Sam, I think there was the question about chapel experience after that.
Oh, I think I missed that.
It says, I can read it too. It says, can you talk a little bit about the chapel experience? Is it strongly associated with a specific church / ideology?
Great. Yeah, I can elaborate on that. So chapel has looked very differently over the different years at Manitowish. And where we are now is being able to provide an opportunity for a spiritual experience, really led by the individual. So we're not guided by a particular religion or a particular church or, a way of thinking. It's really providing that space and opportunity for people to and campers to have that time to be able to reflect and connect spiritually as needed for themselves. So if that's taking a moment to read a particular book or passage, or be able to talk to each other about some of their spiritual needs and experience, then they can. If it's just a time where if someone's less religious, they want to just reflect more on the natural side of things and their connection with nature and just being outdoors, or their personal growth experience. It's very self-guided and led. It's just kind of a space that we do want everyone to come to and participate in so that we can have that community feel, but it's a very individual thing. So the things that Carter and I or other staff might lead, it's very open and very inclusive of all needs, and being able to just provide those prompts to engage in that time.
Yeah. And if you, again, have more specific questions about that, you can always feel to reach out to Sam or I to talk about those things. There's a question about, do we get to fish? Yeah, so you are welcome to, also if you have your own fishing gear, you are welcome to bring that. And some folks will fish on their trips. Just remember kind of the state requirements or regulations in terms of fishing. So just make sure that you're kind of following those things to see if you need to get a license for your camper or not. Make sure you do that. Additionally, we have our nature program, and sometimes they will also go fishing during some of those nature programs. So there will be an opportunity for you to fish.
And just more water activity questions for swimsuit. We are a very active camp, for the activities that we do, especially on trail and swimming and all the boating activities. So it is best to have a swimsuit that isn't going to go anywhere. So one that is, usually one pieces are great, so that you don't have to worry about anything and you could just focus on the activity. We are okay with two pieces, but we do ask that they're more of that sports style two piece. So again, it's more of practicality and being able to move and do the things that are needed when you are, swimming and participating in our water activities.
Yeah, and then swim trunks as well. Just make sure that we usually say it's like a tight elastic or with a tie. Again, we just want to make sure that kids are going to be active, and we want to make sure that everyone is. I think that was it so far. So there was a question about the trail thing for 4th grade. So if you're in 4th grade right now, that means you're going into 5th grade this next year, which means you'll probably be in near south section, which means 3 days, 2 nights for your trail trip.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Sam.
I was just going to say, if there's any other questions, we're happy to answer them. If you are happy and got all the questions answered that you need, you're welcome to part ways. And we thank you for your time and for listening to us this morning, and are available if any other questions come up through our emails in the chat, as well as you could contact camp directly via phone or email so that we can provide you any information that you need. But if you have more questions, please feel free to stick around. We'll stick around for a little bit more time to make sure we answer all those. But again, thank you if you are headed off, and we'll see you at camp. And I think one more did pop in the chat.
Yeah. I think there was a question about sending the link out to the parent information guide.
Yeah, so what else? Oh, I'm sorry, Carter.
Nope,
I'll cut him off and say, following this webinar early next week, our plan is to send the recordings of this webinar and the one that we did on Wednesday out. And so in that email, do that prompt, and we were kind of thinking about it anyway, we'll include that parent information packet, but it is also on our website. So you're able to go on the website and you can direct yourself to more information, the packing list, parent information packet, but we'll make sure to provide those direct links there as well, so you have access to them.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, like Sam said, we're going to kind of hang out just for a little bit longer. And so if you want to go about your Saturday morning, feel free. But if you want to hang out and continue to ask questions, you're more than welcome to do so. I am also going to drop a link into this to our parent information guide. If you're like, I want to look at it right now, then I'm going to do that. So there's a link to the parent information packet, which basically goes more into detail of all the stuff that we just talked about. Oh, we are all so excited to see you at camp. I think now that it is May, I know especially with me, it's definitely it's like fully unwinterized here. About what was it, like less than 2 weeks ago, we actually still had ice on the lake. So now that all of the ice and snow are pretty much gone, except for some of the big kind of snow piles that have been built up, yeah, there's green grass around. I'm looking literally right outside. I can actually see Nash Lodge, which is where we eat from my office. So yeah, it's really great. The frogs and the peepers out of the bog are just like deafeningly loud because they're just all excited and have come out from hibernation. So it's very excited. Some of the things we got going on right now, we've got some of our wilderness first responder and wilderness first aid classes that have been happening. We've also had a couple leadership programs already this spring. It's super exciting. So yes, so there's a question that just came in about visitors weekend. So no matter what, the visitors weekend, that will stay the same. Like whatever date we gave you or that is out there for visitors weekend, that will not change. However, again, like Sam said, if the trail date might change, but there's a good chance that if they're not going to be on trail for that visitors day, that will stay the same. If you're asking the question, well, when am I going to find out when they go on trail? That information usually comes out on opening day, just because up until then, we still have registrations coming in. There's sometimes changes that are going around. It also is going to give us the ability to have the most up-to-date information with weather and like environmental kind of factors, whether that's rivers or campsites or other things like that, especially because we work with the DNR for a lot of the campsites that we go to. So opening day or the following of opening day is the time when that information is going to come out. So that'll give you about a week and a half to be able to kind of make that decision if you're going to come up or not. I know that's not a ton of time, but that's just unfortunately how we need to kind of give that timeline. So
yeah, but to elaborate then, you don't have to decide right now if you're coming to Visitors Day. It's definitely something you can decide,
yeah,
the night before. As far as I know, there's no RSVP. You just have to come to camp and you check in at the office. But if you have questions before, you could definitely let us know before you arrive.
So let me actually clarify that. There is kind of an RSVP. So prior to 2020, we actually, it used to be a little bit more involved, but now it's just kind of that visit where you get to hang out with your camper and go to that chapel service if you would like. But we do ask actually that you call in prior to, so that on Visitors Day, we have kind of our roster of who we should be planning for. However, if you are going to make that last minute decision, that is totally okay too. But just so that we can kind of prepare and make sure we know where everyone is, we usually do ask that you kind of call beforehand.
Perfect. Thanks for clarifying, Carter.
Yeah. Thank you all so much for your questions.
Great.
Any other questions? Only a couple people left, so thanks so much. Stu, I saw you on there, Mr. Stu Stone. It's good to see you.
Hey, Carter. How are you doing? Good to see you too.
Hope everything is well with you and your family.
We're planning on being there Memorial Weekend and looking forward to camp too.
Awesome.
Great. Yeah, Memorial Weekend is just around the corner.
Coming up soon.
Yes.
So, all right. Well, thanks for the session.
Yeah.
And we'll see you soon.
Yeah.
Thanks. Have a good one.
All right.
Okay. Bye, everyone. Thanks for joining.
Libby, did you have any questions? Oh, no. Okay. I was just going to see if they had questions.